Dave Cook, what is your favourite game?
My favourite game is Streets of Rage 2.
Talk about how you first got into games, basically. Simple as that. Like your first system, games and all that there.
Yeah, so my very first system was the ZX Spectrum Plus 2 128K. So one of the longest names for a console system ever. But no, I got that, God, it would have been 1987, I think it was. And it had the most primitive light gun ever. With the James Bond game. It was The Living Daylights with Timothy Dalton. And for people listening who don't know the system, it's a great British institution. It really put British gaming on the map, and it sowed the seeds of companies like Rare, started out with Spectrum and Commodore. Really good, lots of history there. And the games actually came on cassette tapes, as we both know. And those things took about up to, and including, it was like over half an hour for some big games to load onto cassette tape.
Yeah.
And you always got this dreaded thing where, I don't know, about 20 minutes in, the tape would corrupt and then you'd have to start all over again. And that's like, and people complain about like loading screens now that last like over a minute or something, like, and it's like, but back then, like, we would have begged for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you had to be quite patient back then. But no, so the Spectrum was my favourite, my first machine. I loved it. Sadly don't own it anymore because it broke. So yeah.
How did it break?
Moved on to your Mega Drives, your SNES and everything. I just went crazy with it. It just kind of snowballed for me. And, I've always been a bit of a writer as well. When I was a kid, I used to write, I used to love, like, English was my favourite class. I always wrote little stories in my spare time. I used to even write stories for game characters, because old games didn't really have much in the way of narrative, not compared to, relatively speaking, compared to now. So, I used to, like, write my own little stories about characters in the world and sort of flesh that out on my own. And, yeah, I just kept going with that. And then, I guess at high school it would have been about then, I sort of made the decision, right, I'm either going to be an artist, because I love to paint as well, I haven't done it in years, so not really, or English. And then I just thought, I like writing, I love games, let's put the two together, games journalist, and that was it. Basically, that was it. And then from there, from like high school, I did journalism at college, started writing, it's actually music journalism was my first published piece. I started to work for a fanzine called Black Velvet, which is made in England. It's still going today. It's run by basically just one woman. She's fantastic. I haven't spoken to her in years ago, but her mag is really cool. And that was great because it was like, hey, I got the occasional gig ticket or like a press pass to like a cool gig to stand at the front and take photos and things. And that was really cool. And I thought, man, I'd really love to do this with games. And then just kept on going with the music. And then eventually, one of the local sort of culture papers in Edinburgh, it's called The Skinny.
Yeah.
They had a game section, and I happened to know someone who worked on it, and I was like, dude, like, you have to get me in there, please, like, get me, like, I'll do one review or something, whatever. So he put in a good word for me, and eventually I started doing things for free. I got the occasional, review copy out of it, which is kind of cool. Just kept on shopping myself around while pitching The Scotsman, which is like the national paper up here, for those who don't know. And they kept on saying, no, we're not really into games, we don't really do games, we do have a game columnist, but, that's all we've got the budget for, and really, so kept on getting rejected, and one day I phoned, and I got rejected again, and they said, hang on a minute, you're that guy who, like, always phones us, like, with these pitches, and we keep on saying no. And I was like, yeah, and they're like, well, our columnist, like, just left, so do you want his job? And I was like, oh my god, and I was like, yes, like, I didn't even have to think about it.
When was this? Like
2007, October 2007. That was my first paid piece of work.
So that was 7 years ago, yeah.
Crazy, yeah.
Jesus.
It's the actual game. My first published for money review was Sonic Rush on DS. Yeah. So that's how far back we're going. Did that. It wasn't a great paying gig, but as we both know, getting paid for your games writing at all is great. It's a hard thing to do these days.
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, there's so many people out there doing it for free and for the love of it, which is great. You know, and I was one of those people as well, and just, I loved it so much, I just didn't want to stop. But once I started getting paid for it, I thought, right, okay, so let's see how far we can take this. The Skinny's game section ended up spilling out into, it got canned, so we thought, right, let's take the team we've got and make something new. So we made a magazine called Square Go, which is a website, it's still going today.
Yeah.
Loads of cool game writers have come out for there. Cara Ellison was a writer on Square Go, sadly after I left it. But, yeah, there's a really good, base of writers and sort of game makers and game people have come out of that mag. So it was quite influential when it started, for sure. So I was writing for them. I worked as the editor for a while pitching like all the mags, you know, and this is when I started getting into like your games TMs and like all that. So I was basically pitching these guys, still getting shot down. Then, you probably remember the game APB.
Yes. Who doesn't forget APB, basically?
I don't know. People who played it, maybe they wanted to shut it out of their mind. But no, so then, Games TM were going to run a feature on it, but they didn't, like, nobody could make the trip. And the same thing happened with the Scotsman. They thought, hey, we know this guy in Scotland because he keeps on pitching us. He's only in Edinburgh. This trip's in Dundee, just up the road. Let's send him. So after I went up there with loads of guys from Edge and Future and all that, that was it. That was so surreal, in this minibus all the way up there. And I did the review, it got published in Games TM, and then, the features editor at the time, Matt, who's now on GamesIndustry.biz, he's a lovely chap, said, hey, you know, anything else, you know, if you've got any other ideas, anything else you can do, pitch it to us and we'll see if we can get it done. Did it, and then, sorry, this is really long-winded, sorry. So did it, and then, got loads of stuff published in there, and then a job opened up at their website, NowGamer. I applied for it, got it, and yeah, then about 2 years later I left for VG 24/7, and that was that, and the rest is kind of history. Now I'm out of games altogether, so it was a long road with a lot of luck and a lot of hard work. Not for nothing, but you know, I'm out of the life now. That's me done. So
it's probably worth mentioning for those listening, Dave was kind of my successor at VG 24/7 because, I was kind of the UK honcho before Dave came in, for those listening. So, yeah, that was, like, was that APB trip your first press trip?
It was, yeah. It was surreal though, because, I mean, the company, obviously, Real Time Worlds, they're no longer with us, but that office was massive. I have been on a lot of press trips since, you know, VG 24/7 and NowGamer and such, but I haven't seen many studios that big. Like, and I couldn't really understand why. As we were getting the tour, it was very overwhelming. I was like, geez, I didn't realize like studios could be this big. And I was told, hey, but they're not just making APB, there's all these other projects they're making in different parts of this building. Big powerhouse type stuff, and that's why it was kind of strange when they announced that it was folding. So I didn't realise that they were actually in trouble, because I thought, hey, this is like a big successful company in Scotland. This is awesome. But what a shame. When we started hearing the news that it was collapsing, and some people I knew actually as well losing their jobs and stuff, and that was pretty hard for Scotland. But I tried to champion Scottish games where I can. I did a column in VG for a while. It's kind of on the bounce back though, which is really nice to see. The Scottish scene, it's more indie now, but there's some really cool little things coming out of there. So
yeah, I was just going to say how much you were a heavy promoter as such of the Scottish games industry while you were at VG 24/7 as well.
Yeah, at first it was a bit of a hard fight. The team, Pat and all that, they were all really happy for me to do it. That was really cool. I did it for a while, but then, I don't know, there was a lot of, let's just say old guard, developers in Scotland who were like, oh, but you're not talking enough about the business of making a game studio or the economics of starting a studio. And it wasn't really about business. It wasn't like trying to be like GamesIndustry.biz, right? It was meant to be more of just raising awareness about Scotland. So I took it aside and thought, hey, let's just put this on ice for a bit and come back to it. And I never did, because obviously I left. So it's kind of, I might bring it back. It would take a lot of time, I think, but I enjoyed it. It felt like flying the home team's flag a bit. It was good.
So let's talk about your favorite game, which is Streets of Rage 2. So, like when you came in at BD247, I didn't really know too much about you at the time. Besides, you were coming in from Now Gamer, but like as you like a couple of months in, or I can't mind when exactly, but I think it was something like a ballpark a couple of months in. Like you were starting to write a lot of stuff on retro fighters, and one of them was Streets of Rage 2, I think, or Streets of Rage as a whole. So, like, talk about how you first got into the series before,
Yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of the VG regulars, it became a bit of a running joke on the comment boards actually, because they were all a bit like, hey, you didn't mention Streets of Rage 2 in this article, what's wrong, are you feeling okay? And I'm just like, so I became the kind of guy that really got obsessed with this game. And I think the article you're talking about, I remember it was basically me talking about how loads of different developers have tried, including one in Scotland actually, have tried to do Streets of Rage 4 or do a reboot, but it always gets cancelled for some reason. So I don't know what's going on with that. But I first played Streets of Rage 2. It was a rental copy, and it must have been when it came out, so 1992, I want to say.
Yeah, that's right.
And my dad rented it. He used to take me every Friday up to a shop called Ritz Video, which I think they still have some stores in the UK somewhere. It's basically Blockbuster before Blockbuster came to the UK. But they used to do Mega Drive games, and you could rent them kind of like a film, and that was really cool. So every Friday my dad would like rent it as a game, because we used to get half-day Fridays from primary school, and it would just kind of shut us up, and but I got Streets of Rage 2, and I think we must have rented that game for about a whole month, every Friday for a month when it was due back. We just renewed it. We should have just bought it, do you know what I mean? Like, the amount of money we spent on it, but anyway. So, I love this game. I loved it so much because I played things like Double Dragon, and Final Fight, which came before. Streets of Rage was not the first of its kind.
No.
I would argue it's the most sophisticated game of its kind. So, Mega Drive pads, right, they only have 3 buttons unless you've got the 6-button version, but let's just ignore that. So, the 3-button Mega Drive pad doesn't have a lot of buttons, like certainly not as much as the SNES controller. But this game has like such a big moveset for how little buttons it's got, and there's all these hidden little things you can do to manipulate the AI, and sort of, depending on how long you hold down a button, you can do a secondary attack that's a little bit more powerful, and all these little secrets amounting to this great big command list. It's actually a very, very deep game that I just love. So like, for example, if you're playing Pac-Man, like, you can actually manipulate where the ghosts are. It's actually a trick. If you turn right, certain ghosts will turn left and vice versa. So that's how like all the, King of Kong, that guy Billy Mitchell.
Yeah.
He had the Pac-Man world record score for a long time. That's how he did it though. He knew how to manipulate the AI. Streets of Rage 2, the same thing happens. Like, you can actually like get enemies to walk where you want them to walk, depending on what you do. And I actually tried for a while to try and go for the world record on that game, which is really sad. But
wow,
I did that. I played it for charity. I did loads of. I love this game so much. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling about the technicalities of it, but I love it. But so yeah, I mean, all that stuff aside, all the really techie stuff aside, it just plays a really good game. It, like, the controls are great, the combat's really chunky and satisfying, the digitized sound of like the smack it makes when you punch someone, the garish neon colours that sort of just really perfectly capture the dance scene of the 90s. The sort of techno music by Yuzo Koshiro, who's like, I love that guy's soundtracks, he's one of my favourite game composers. Just everything about it, I really enjoy. And in 2 players as well, it's so much fun. Until you start hitting each other on purpose. So me and my brother used to play this game all the time, and I would maybe chuck a pipe or a knife or something, or he would mistime a punch, and we'd end up knocking each other on the ground, and we got really mad at each other. Actually stopped becoming about the bad guys and just about killing each other. And then we sort of realised this is really dumb, what are we even doing? But yeah, like, I just like, and the game doesn't have much of a narrative either, apart from you trying to save one of your friends. But all the stages, the progression of the stages, you've got like the streets, and then you fight the guy in the bar, and obviously that means you get, in my head I was like, oh, so they must get information from the guy in the bar about where this guy's being held. So they get on the bikes, and level 2's on the bike bridge, then you fight through the amusement park, and you take the boat to the island, and I just thought, like, it's not just a bunch of random stages like Sonic. You know, you've got Casino Night Zone and then you've got like Mystic Cave Zone. It's like, why are they related? Why are they even next to each other? It makes no sense. But this kind of told a cool little story without saying very much, and yeah, I just really liked that. I don't know. And yeah, like, have you played it much yourself?
Like, to be honest, no.
Oh, man.
Like, to be fair, there's going to be games I'm doing in this series that I've not played a great deal of. But at the same time, I really want to know more about them, so like I can kind of learn more about these games, what made them tick, why people love them, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for with this as well. Like, there's even one person out there who wants to, you know, get into these games that we enjoyed, you know, back in the heyday. You know, all more power to them. Great, fine.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's cool, man. Like, and you know what? Like, actually, since like leaving sort of games writing. I've actually started doing that as well. I've been playing more retro games than I've ever played in, well, the last 5 years, man. You know, I've been buying more, like, cartridges on eBay for my NES and stuff, and I haven't played Streets of Rage 2 yet, but I will. It's only a matter of time. But yeah, so I don't know, like, the game also has, like, a really cool two-player mode where it's, like, one-on-one. That was really cool. Basically, whoever won the big wrestler guy won, I think, because he was just so big, and you could just do a special move and kill everyone, but, yeah. Basically. I don't know, it's just rare for a game of its time to have such good graphics, and the sound had a really cool soundtrack. Like, I definitely would recommend anyone to check it out. It's so catchy. It just bleeds the 90s. It just captures that decade so well. In just such a great context. I just really loved it. For me, it's nostalgic though, right? So, if, you know, you go back to a game that you have fond memories of playing, that's definitely gotta be the game for me, I think.
Like, you mentioned all these elements that you loved about the game, but like, is there like one specific element that you love about it more than anything else? Like, maybe that kind of 90s dance scene that you were talking about, that, you know, the game is kind of on, basically.
Yeah, I'd say the music, because it's just so catchy. Like, it's one of these things where, like, if you played me the first, like, few seconds of one of the tracks, I would know it was from that game. Because it's honestly so iconic. It's like, do you know much, have you heard about Yuzo Koshiro before?
No, I'd be lying if I said had, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he's really cool, because he actually moved away from games to do, like, TV shows. I think he did the soundtrack for Law and Order, which is really weird. You know, that TV show,
yeah.
The States. I'm sure he did the theme song for that. I might need to double check that. That might be rubbish, but I'm sure he did some sort of, he moved into, like, Western TV. But the guy is so cool, like, you'll hear, he's a bit like Bill Murray crashing parties. Like occasionally you'll hear of him, like, invading, like, the DJ booth at, like, a club in Tokyo or something, and just, like, playing a Streets of Rage dance mix or something. It's like, it's so cool. But he did things like, he did, Shinobi 3 soundtrack. He did Story of Thor, which was called, I can't remember what it was called in the States. It was called something different. Beyond Oasis, I think it was called, or Story of Oasis or something. Anyway, yeah, him and his team, Ancient, developer called Ancient, who are still going, but I don't think they really bring things out over here, which is a shame. They made some brilliant games. They had some really good input on the Mega Drive collection. And yeah, Koshiro's soundtrack was just incredible. It's so iconic. I could listen to it now and just really be taken back. Like, I'll start thinking of, like, other games I used to play, what my life was back in the 90s. Like, it does that to you, you know? I think everyone's got that kind of song or film or game that it just takes them back there, you know? Really tangibly, you know?
I talked about, like, I asked you about, you know, the one element that you liked about it. Like, in hindsight and looking back, is there an element that, if the game that you probably didn't like at the time, or thinking about it now, you didn't like? Or is it just...
Oh, that I didn't like? That's difficult. I agree though that no game is perfect, right? Like, definitely. Okay, so there's a stage boss at the end of level 5 who's like every boss has a pattern. Like I said, you can really manipulate the enemies in this game, and I still sometimes can't figure him out. He's like this big boxer guy with a bald head and a really big moustache, and he looks superhuman how big he is. It's ridiculous. But he's a boxer, right? So he's got these little fakes and these little dirty little tricks like elbows and stuff. And yeah, I always think I've nailed him and I know what his pattern is, but man, he sucks so many lives away from me on the hardest difficulty without fail every single time. Like, I think I've figured him out, but then no, he does something new that I just wasn't banking on, and he just like crushes me completely. I always say if I can get past him without losing 2 lives, then I'm probably going to complete the game on like the hardest setting, but it doesn't always happen, put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, like, when you put it like that, it kind of reminds me of, some of the difficulty in boss battles in games today, because it kind of harks back to that kind of era. Like Dark Souls, like, we'll get into Dark Souls in a bit, but like, like, not just Dark Souls, but like Deus Ex Human Revolution as well, because like that, like, in terms of modern day games, like games from today, basically, like, like when you think of hard boss fights, besides Dark Souls, you think of Deus Ex. And
yeah, no, totally. And you know, like, I totally agree with with those comparisons. And I think for me, like, if you were to look at my hands playing this game, I move really erratically. And it actually, now I think about it, it's like how you would move in a bullet hell shooter.
Mm.
Because, what you need to do is you have to tap the directions really, really quick to make the enemies, like, move. So I'd have to show you, like, you'd have to watch me playing on like Twitch or something, to really see how I do it. But, yeah, it's really quick, decisive movements to try and fake out the AI and sort of bend it to your will kind of thing. Like, it's weird, but yeah, it reminds me of a bullet hell shooter. And actually, like, I'm actually a big fan of any boss or any game that has a lot of pattern memorization, you know? Like Mega Man's like the classic one, right? I mean, like, you have to memorize every little jump, every little movement, like, that game doesn't mess around either. Like, you really need to have a capacity to remember sequences for that game. Like, a lot of people don't think that's fun though. I get that. Like with Dark Souls, like memorizing attack patterns, it feels too much like work. And I get that. Like sometimes you just want to be sitting back and not really thinking about what you're doing. Like, and this is why I think games like The Walking Dead and that are really good. Wolf Among Us. Like, sure, yeah, you're switched on and you're engaged in the story, but in terms of actual control, you're not really doing that much, and that's completely fine because that's what Telltale want, right? They want the story to take center stage over your hands, you know.
Yeah.
So I think in some cases, like I really like being responsive with controls. Bayonetta is another good example. You got to really be on the ball to the point where it's almost like a Twitch game, you know, like it's so fast and quick.
The fighting genre at the time, like it was kind of going through that golden era. Like you talk of Streets of Rage and games like Street Fighter. I know it's probably a hard comparison to make, like with Street Fighter and Streets of Rage, but like you think of that era at the time, and it was a pretty good time. And this was still like 2 years before Virtua Fighter came at the time.
Yeah, and do you know what? Like I actually love Street Fighter like so much. I actually play it midweek. There's actually a social club for Street Fighter fans here in Edinburgh. So we get together, drink some beers, and yeah, just play Street Fighter, like Smash Brothers, all that sort of stuff. It's called Rushdown, and it's a really cool group. But they are scarily good. I'm so bad at Street Fighter when I play with them. But that, it goes to show you, like, even back then, those games, like Street Fighter, especially, and Virtua Fighter, which is like such a deep fighting game, those games were so technical. Like, there was all these little hidden things you could do, and like, if you really studied a game like Virtua Fighter, you could become scarily good at it. And I think that's really, it says a lot because on the surface, like those games, we look at them now. I mean, Virtua Fighter now, the people look like they're made out of Lego. They're so angular and they've got all these like straight edges and stuff. But man, like what a deep fighting game that was. And like, yeah, it was something of a golden age. I think you're completely right. And I think, and this might be a bit controversial, but I think the sort of scandal, if you will, over Mortal Kombat really helped bring a lot of people's attention to that genre. For good or worse, you know, the whole violence thing, it actually got people talking about it, so fair play, you know?
Just thinking about Street Fighter, and how we were talking about it, just kind of reminded me of how every Saturday I would go to my brother's, and like he would have a Sega Saturn. Like he used to be really into, you know, like the Sega Saturn. He was really more or less into Sega stuff, like before circa 1998, and every Saturday, like when I was 5, maybe 6, me and him would just play obviously play stuff like FIFA, Sega Rally, and all that there. But I also remember, like, you know, playing Street Fighter. I think it was 2 around that time. Like 2 was 95, wasn't it?
I think it might even have been the first installment of Street Fighter 3 on the Saturn.
Sorry,
I think it came out around about 98, I think.
Sorry, not Street Fighter, Virtua Fighter.
Oh, Virtua Fighter, yeah, it would have been, I think, 2. Yeah, it would have been 2, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I remember, playing that, like, having a lot more fun with that than perhaps any other game, I was playing with my brother, so, and this was before in terms of fighting games, I was in this, Tekken, because, like, Tekken's kind of my go-to game for fighting. Because, like, I remember being so, I remember enjoying Tekken 5 a lot before the PS3 came out, because I remember thinking, that's a next-gen game on, PS2 before the PS3 came out, because it really did look awesome. But, like, going back to my, playing Virtua Fighter with my brother, it was, I can remember Virtua Fighter being stupidly fun, and this was coming from someone who was relatively young at the time, not to mention, who wasn't really into fighting games at the time, and who actually never owned his own console until like 1997.
Oh, what was that? Was that the PS1?
Yeah, that was the PS1.
Awesome. And well, Tekken, like, good thing you mentioned Tekken. Actually, I can't believe I actually forgot that. I suppose it was a bit later, but yeah, a lot of love for Tekken. I still say that my favorite game in the series is still Tekken 3, but again, just because of the nostalgia value, like they're all really good. But yeah, I love like Tekken Force and like. And Ling Xiao was like in it for the first time, and she's like still my favorite character. So Horang is like second best. So when they sort of appeared in the game, and I was quite good at them, I sort of gravitated towards them, and yeah, I love those characters, man. It's weird though because there was a lot of sort of like games trying to jump on that bandwagon. Certainly round about when you got your PlayStation 1 '97, you already had games like Battle Arena Toshinden. Which, back then seemed kind of cool. So it was like, hey, big 3D game like Tekken, but it's all crazy with big fireballs and characters with knives and stuff. But going back to it, it's really not as good as I think a lot of people remembered. But then you had like hidden gems like Bloody Roar, which I think a lot of people really want to come back. And you had, what else? There was quite a lot actually.
Darkstalkers, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Darkstalkers was awesome. I only really got into that when the HD remake came out, but that's cool. Really like that. Power Stone as well, of course, on Dreamcast. I mentioned that earlier, but I really don't get why that hasn't come back yet. I guess like it's not. It maybe has like a cult following more than a widespread following. I think that's probably the case, but it just seems like that game is before its time. Like it didn't have any online features, but if it did, it would probably be really widely played, I think.
And if we're talking about Dreamcast games as well, you have to think of, oh crap! I completely forgot about a game that came out in the PS1. I was going to say Soul Calibur, but if you think back to before Soul Calibur, there was Soul Blade as well.
Soul Blade, yeah, on that was PS1 as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and that was kind of the predecessor to Soul Calibur as well.
That was awesome, actually. I'm sure, because it had a kind of story mode as well.
Yeah.
But they really ramped that up on Soul Calibur. In fact, Soul Calibur and Sonic Adventure were the first two games I got for my Dreamcast. And I spent so much time on the Soul Calibur story mode. When you go around the map and you have to level up your weapon and you can unlock new weapons, and that was really cool. But they took it, I think if memory serves correctly, they took it out of the HD remake, re-release. And I remember sitting there like, oh man, this is so great. I'm going to put all my time into the story mode again. And it wasn't there. It was like a vanilla arcade port, I think. I might be wrong on that, but I'm sure it was. And that really, let me down a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. It would be so cool if they brought back Power Stone there, I think, like if they did a new version of it. But I just don't know if it would be as popular. I don't know if it would actually get a new fan base.
Yeah. But yeah, like, having that jolt in the memory, just the Soul Blade, like I remember vividly as well, like one summer in down across the border in the Republic of Ireland, somewhere called Cavan, and I was out there with my dad, and because of the family business, and I remember going to one of the workers basically who had a PlayStation at the time, playing Soul Blade constantly, like not all day, but like for most of the afternoon. I remember how much fun I had playing it, and there's a part of me that just thinks, why does Sony not have that as a PS1 classic for PS Vita or PS4? I would easily put money down for that.
That's a good point, actually. That isn't, as far as memory serves, it isn't actually on PSN here, is it? Or even the States, I don't think. But no. Yeah, I would buy that for sure, man. Like, the thing about that, this is what I was saying about Streets of Rage, actually, is that sure, the PS1 controller, right, the DualShock had more controllers, more pads, right? More buttons, rather. And it had a big command, but the command list was still massive, like, it was really big, like, I guess Tekken's command list was big too, but I think Soul Calibur's was even bigger, especially when you had characters like Mitsurugi, who had all these different stances and ways to hold a sword, and like, his command list just got massive. It's a bit like the Tekken 2 character, Lei. Was it Lei the cop?
Yeah.
Yeah. He had all these different stances, like the mantis, and he could lie down. His command list was just absurd. But that's when, like, your fighting games really got pretty serious. And I think a lot of people are still in agreement that Virtua Fighter's, technicality is still up there with the best of them, but games like BlazBlue as well, I mean, I tried to get into that. That is really technical. Like, that takes a lot of work, to get good at. So I took the coverage way out and just, traded it in. But yeah, I just would love to really take one fighting game and just get really good at it. But I never had time. But, now that I'm not writing about games, I can spend time on ones I'm not reviewing. So I might try and get good at Street Fighter, so I can actually win against my friends. But we'll see what happens there, like.
And it's worth noting, listeners, not once have we brought up Dead or Alive or Marvel.
Oh, yeah. No, they're both cool, actually. Dead or Alive 5, I really liked that, actually. Put a fair bit of time into just like the story mode and a few games with friends. Marvel as well, yeah, really cool. But then Marvel 3 came along, and again, I play with people who are, I mean, basically trying to reach pro level. If not, they're almost there already. And basically, when you play against them in Marvel, if you get hit once, you're dead. Like, they just combo you to death, and it's just like, oh, well, that was fun to watch. I didn't get a chance to do anything. So I kind of stopped playing it against them, because I'm a bit of a wimp like that. But, yeah, that's cool. Smash Brothers is awesome as well. I'm really looking forward to the new one, actually. I think it looks really cool.
To be honest, I've not really felt the need to want Smash Brothers as much as I did for Brawl, because I remember playing Melee at a tournament here in Derry like one time with an old school friend, and I was playing Melee with a couple of folk who were involved in that tournament. It was kind of a fighting game tournament that was happening around that time, held every 2 months, and I remember playing like a couple of matches on Melee. I was like, oh my god, I want a Wii to play Brawl with. Like, cause Melee was so good. And, I traded in about half of my games collection for a Wii just so I could have Smash Bros. Brawl. And like, for about a couple of weeks I was like, oh cool, this is great. But like, I just felt, that kind of thing just kind of died for me, down the line. Cause I was kind of playing it by myself at that time, cause I didn't really have anyone to play it with, and I think the thing that kind of got me into Brawl was not so much the game itself, it was just playing it with all the people.
Yeah, like, it's one of those games, right, that still retains what has been lost in a lot of franchises, which is local play. And that's a shame, because I know it's a bit of an outmoded concept now for a lot of people. They would, I genuinely believe there's people out there who think, why would I want to sit at home, like, and play with, like, people right next to me on the couch when I could just play idiots online and be anonymous and generally be a little venomous little asshole. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know, like, I really miss the whole sitting down on the couch, giving each other abuse while, Mario and Luigi knock 10 shades out of each other. That's great fun. And it's funny though, when you see people who are like, a few of my friends do this, they see us play Melee at this fighting game night, and they're just a bit like, what's actually going on? You're just hitting buttons, like, it's just crazy. There's no actual skill involved here. And you see them all kind of go, hold on a minute, like, you take that back. Cause like, I learned the hard way, mainly by being beaten by my friends at this game badly. There is actually, a method to the madness, and like, if you really drill down into the technicalities of the combat and stuff, it's actually quite deep as well. But to the untrained eye, it just looks like a complete mess of people chucking stuff around, and yeah, it's really cool, and I really look forward to the Wii U one for sure. Yeah, and they announced that new Pokemon thing as well. Did you see that? Pocket.
Yeah, Pokken, yeah. Kind of weird though.
Yeah. I don't want to say I called that on VG a while ago, but I called it. But, Yeah, no, yeah, I think it's quite clever. It will sell like crazy, I'm sure. Especially if they use those amiibo, you know, the little
Oh
figures.
yeah.
That was what I theorized on VG. I basically said, right, there's that like this leaked image of like two. It was basically a leaked image of Pokken Fighters, like long before it got announced. And I was like, wouldn't this be cool if this was like a proper Pokemon fighting game? But how much money would Nintendo make? Basically all of it. If they announced these little figures as well that you could collect, and people like kids are going to go nuts for that. Like I'm pretty sure they will. So I don't know. It seems like that could actually shift consoles. Maybe not for our demographic, but for the little ones, so I'm sure they'll absolutely ache for it. You know.
Yeah, I think at this point Wii U's kind of down and done in terms of the core, and it was besides, you know, first party stuff like Zelda or like Smash or Pokemon. Like if they're not even announced Pokemon for Wii U, it's just arcade for now, although it's clearly obvious it's going to come to Wii U at some point anyways.
Yeah. That's the thing, like, I guess it'll be like this classic thing they do with fighting games, right? There'll be a localization test in Japan for a while they do all the balancing, get feedback, and the home version will come out. Like, how could it not, you know? Like, it would do so well. And do you know what I was thinking, actually? It reminded me of Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah.
Nintendo license, right? They kind of farmed out to a third party. And do you remember, like, Iwata was talking about, I think it was like his big investor note where he was apologizing again.
Yeah.
But sort of saying, you know, we've got a plan, we're going to be, you know, sort of farming out Nintendo properties to third parties.
Yeah, I remember that.
Everyone took that to mean, like, oh, right, Mario on 360, yeah, or Mario on PS3. But this is probably part of that, you know, like, actually working with other developers to integrate their properties.
Yeah.
That is really clever. Like,
yeah.
I think that's really smart.
Kind of a second party initiative.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, Hyrule Warriors is clearly a Dynasty Warriors game, but with a Zelda, not a reskin, obviously, but for all intents and purposes, you could call it that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, I'm not slagging it off, you know, it looks awesome, I'm gonna get it. But you could call it that, right? And Pokken Fighters is a Tekken reskin with Pokemon characters, but it works. I think it looks really awesome, I think it's really clever, but I just don't know what else. There must be other things they could do out there, in terms of that, you know, sort of like hybrids between different games. I don't know. Maybe EA could make the next Mario Super Strikers football game. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome because, you know, because like I enjoy FIFA, but that'd be really cool. I'd love to see that.
Because then you know it's going to be like, I mean, fundamentally going to be quite cool, quite good because, well, FIFA know this genre so well now. So if you get all that tech under the hood, and skin it with Mario characters, add in loads of crazy power shots and like special powers and stuff. Yeah, I'd play that.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's just the thing is, like, EA is really, you know, strict on technical stuff in FIFA, and not to mention the presentation of it as well. That's
it, yeah. I'd like to see them apply like their visual tech to Mario, like
exactly.
You feet of sweat dripping off of his big pudgy face, and yeah, I don't know, like, and I just think, yeah, like, all of a sudden I think a lot of people are a bit like, yeah, Wii U's not looking so bad anymore. I never thought it was bad, really, to begin with. I was just a bit upset there wasn't as many games worth buying for it, you know, but I pre-ordered Bayonetta. Obviously not getting sent promo copies anymore, so I'm actually paying good money for Bayonetta, because I love that game so much.
Yep.
You know, that's the game it's the game I gave the highest review score out of every scored review I've ever done. It was a proper 10 out of 10 for me at the time. I think it was only me and Edge that did it. I think Edge gave it a 10, and I think a lot of people thought I was nuts.
Eurogamer gave it a 10, I think.
Oh, did they? Yeah, I mean...
I'm probably bullshitting, but let me check.
A lot of people go to me like, how could you have done that? Like, that game's rubbish. It's like, oh, take it back. No, I played Bayonetta 2 as well, actually. That's really cool. I played it, is it Eurogamer Expo last year, I think?
Yeah, I was playing at Eurogamer Expo, last year, and it was just amazing. Like, everybody had fucked off to the PS4 and Xbox One areas, and, like, the Wii U area was just kind of, well, not ghost town, because, like, there was still, you know, a couple of people, you know, going about the stuff, but, like, there was a Bayonetta cubicle there, free, and I was like, happy days!
Was it the demo? Was it the one when you're on the back of that big, just like,
yeah,
it was. Almost, and you fight that big flying thing, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It's insane because like this thing flies around the city. It's like skyscrapers are getting leveled in the background. Everything's exploding, and it's just like, this is incredible. Like it's the kind of game that a lot of people are afraid to make now. it's just so kind of out there, and like, I wasn't going to bring this up, but like, I actually really liked the Devil May Cry reboot.
Oh, I do too. Like, I was just like, I'm completely in for anything Ninja Theory does, but like, oh my god, they really fucking nailed that game so well.
Totally, man. I'm glad someone else agrees. But no, like, I okay, the combat maybe wasn't as difficult as Bayonetta was. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. Anyway. I thought it was great. I thought, Dante was like a petulant little shit, right? But that is his character. He's a cocky little git.
Oh yeah.
And you know, like I loved the soundtrack. The graphics were great. The control system was interesting, like the switching up between light and dark. And talking like, this is why I thought of this, the Bayonetta thing, the whole city exploding. The bit at the end, right? There's the bit near the end of, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a bit near the end of Devil May Cry where like, you're going, like, jumping between skyscrapers and everything's blowing up, falling apart.
I know exactly.
This looks brilliant. But, you know, we'll probably never get a sequel to that game, and that's a real damn shame, because I don't care what colour his hair is or whatever.
Yeah, or the frame rate. I
don't want to get too much into that one, because that's a hornet's nest again.
Oh yeah, okay.
Whenever you bring it up, but I don't know, man. I thought it was cool. I actually like when other studios are given existing franchises, because I like to see what they can do with it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a little bit like what Nintendo are doing by farming out, Pokken Fighter and Hyrule Warriors. Like it's another take on an existing property to just inject some new life into it, right? Because I love Zelda games, right? Don't get me wrong. They are fantastic. But they are formulaic to a point. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but I think it's a familiarity thing that people keep on coming back because they know what they're going to get. If that makes sense. Like for like every Mario game, right? The first level is always going to be kind of grassy. It'll be quite easy. There'll be blocks to hit. There'll be coins to collect. All these like things that you can depend on. That's what makes people come back, and Nintendo do that really well. But holy hell, you know, all of a sudden the Zelda franchise is Dynasty Warriors, and you're killing like hundreds and hundreds of like little goons, like with big massive swords and stuff. That's cool. It's very different. I'm well up for that. Right. You know, I've never done that in a Zelda game before.
We talked at the start, or near about to start anyways, about Streets of Rage, and you mentioned reboot from, you know, Ruffian, like that was kind of in the works. Is that like, would you like to see a remake of Streets of Rage still happen? Because like I remember you specifically saying maybe if Platinum did it, that'd be cool.
This is like a conversation I actually weirdly have quite a lot. I think there's people I know like in the kind of circles, like they know I love this game so much. Yeah, they always say like, so who would be your dream developer? Like if you had to choose someone to do it. And yeah, it would be Platinum, right? Because if they took the combat, like made it absolutely nuts. Kind of simple, but you know what I mean? Over the top nuts. So like Streets of Rage was, chucking people around like they were ragdolls and things, right? Make it really crazy like that. Chuck in loads of like garish, like neon colours, keep it set in the 90s, even keep it 2D, right? That would be cool. I'd love to see Platinum do, I suppose they did Infinite Space, which is a 2D game, but I'd love to see them do this kind of like an action kind of 2D game. I think they could do it really well. Like, and they do nostalgia so good as well. Like, I remember Bayonetta had the Space Harrier stage.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was an Afterburner stage as well that had like the soundtrack from the arcade game, I think. But there was definitely a Space Harrier stage, you know, the big assault on the big tower at the end, and that was so cool. I would love to get them to do loads of little references like that. I mean, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance has loads of in-jokes and references to like films and stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a Ninja Turtles joke in there as well. When he goes down the manhole and he closes it. I'm sure there's like a little nod to the Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
They're so good at that, so if they could really get the fan service right and just make, I don't know, just really capture and make that game so good to begin with, I reckon they'd be the ones to do it. Close second, I guess, would be Way Forward Technologies, but they already did Double Dragon Neon, so I don't know if they could do it. But did you ever play their remake of Contra? Well, it wasn't a remake as such. It was like
no, I didn't get to play it. No,
it was called Hardcore Uprising. I don't think a lot of people know this, but that's actually a Contra game, because it's kind of derived from Contra Hardcore on the Mega Drive. That is a phenomenal sort of like way of modernizing an old franchise. Like they did it so well. It's like a bullet hell platformer, kind of like Gunstar Heroes or Contra and stuff like that. So that is just so good. I would love to give the job to them, but they did Double Dragon Neon. Apparently it's okay, but I don't know, would they do Streets of Rage as well? I'm not so sure, but yeah, I want to see Platinum do it. Like, for real. Like, I think it would be so cool if they did that. But it's never gonna happen though, man. Like, this is the thing. It's, I remember at one point Grin were doing a remake of it. This is what I've heard. They were the guys that did, Bionic
Oh,
Cat,
yeah.
the reboot. Which got a really mixed reaction. I actually thought it wasn't so bad. But rumor had it they were working on the Strider reboot, a proper 3D one though. Not one that Double Helix did, which is actually badass. Really like that game. But rumor had it they were doing, the Strider 3D game, because there was this weird like CGI trailer that leaked out. You can still find it online. I think it's on VG as well. It looked quite cool. But then it came out they were doing Streets of Rage as well, but nobody ever saw what it looked like. Like, nobody knew, was it a 3D game or a 2D game or what, but, yeah, I would like to see it, just to see what they had on their hands, but, and then Ruffian, obviously, that little tech demo came out, and like, for people who haven't seen it, it actually starts off all 16-bit, and old school, but then the camera zooms out and it's actually like an arcade machine. And then it's like, oh man, like, here's the actual 3D world that you're gonna fight in. And that was quite cool. But the sort of bad thing was it was in 3D. That's the problem. Streets of Rage and like those kind of scrolling beat 'em ups don't work so well in 3D. Not directly translated. Like Bayonetta, for all intents and purposes, if you flipped it on its side and made it a 2D beat 'em up game, it would still work, I think. It's sort of an evolution of the genre, right? But did you ever play Fighting Force?
Fighting Force? No, I don't think I did, no.
So that's the PlayStation 1 game, right? And and this is like so heavily rumoured and discussed that I think everyone's decided to believe it's true. I think it is actually true. There's Fighting Force, which was made by Eidos.
Yeah.
Core, I think, in the end. It started life as Streets of Rage 4. And you can actually see a lot of similarities between all the characters. You got the big guy who was obviously meant to be Max the wrestler. There was your hunky guy who was meant to be Axel. There was a sort of really skinny girl who was meant to be Blaze. And a lot of the moves are the same. The game is quite good fun. I mean, it's ridiculous. You pick up cars and throw them at people and stuff. That's kind of silly. But yeah, you can just run around with most of the enemies, or like, as soon as they start getting you in a corner, you can just run all the way back down the stage and hit them as they come. They kind of line up to get hit and stuff, and it doesn't really work as well, but I reckon Platinum have got the chops to do a proper third-person beat 'em up. Like, they could do a proper 3D remake of it. But I think they should keep it 2D. That's what I'm saying. But do you know what? I kind of think about this. Do we actually need a remake or a sequel? Because there's still a really big homebrew scene out there for Streets of Rage. Like, it's actually massive. Like, there's a lot of people still making their own remakes, and there's a really cool one I think it's called Beats of Rage. And it's a remake of Streets of Rage, but with SNK characters, like from King of Fighters and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It's awesome. Like, you need to download the sort of the engine that they made it in and to run it, but it's quite simple. If you look up like emulator groups and stuff, I can actually promote emulators again because I'm not a journalist now. So if you look up those emulator and homebrew groups, you'll find it. It's called Open Bar, like Open Beats of Rage. Like, it's really cool. And there was a really awesome one called Streets of Rage Remake. It's made by a guy called Bomberlink in Spain. I think he's from Barcelona. He worked on this, like, a proper remake of all 3 games rolled into one. So it's got something like 40 odd stages or something. It's massive. Plus, like, loads of new levels and stuff that he made himself. But it's great. It's got a world map. It's got different routes, multiple endings. Like, you can use handguns in it. There's like a bit where you ride the bikes. I think there's a speedboat level as well where you can do loads of cool jumps and stuff. And the entire soundtrack was like remade and remixed by like the community. Really lovely, really awesome. The guy made it, and he got interviewed in Retro Gamer magazine. I interviewed him for my blog back in the day, and he was getting loads of notoriety. So Sega definitely knew this thing existed, right? So he released the final build, and within like 24 hours, Sega like did a cease and desist on him. And I was like, oh, come on. Like, and it was so good. Like, you could actually charge money for how good this thing was. I probably shouldn't say this, but you can still download it if you look hard enough. And I have it on my laptop right now, and I play it quite often. It's really cool. So then I think, yeah, maybe that's a sequel we never got. Maybe that would have been it. I always thought that Sega were just gonna, I thought they shut it down to basically say to the guy, look, we'll shut you down, but this is actually quite cool. Here's some money. Actually make Streets of Rage 4, please. Kind of like what, I guess, like, I'm sure Sega got some homebrew guys to do, I think it was the mobile version of Sonic CD.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, like they let a couple of guys who were doing, fan-made Sonic CD, and like they let them do it commercially as well, because it was that good of a job.
Yeah. Oh, it really was though. It was really, really awesome. But I just wonder, like, why not do that? I mean, this guy, Bomberlink, like, clearly cared enough to, it took him like 5 years to do it on his own, pretty much. So it's a colossal effort, and it plays like a dream, so I'm just thinking, why not just give this guy the job? Do you know? But I don't know the business of the business, I guess. So I don't know what happened there, but it's a story I'd love to write about someday if I ever got the chance to.
Like, when you say, like, to write it again, like, do you mean, like, on a proper outlet or just blog?
Just whatever. Like, if I could be the guy to write that article and, like, pitch it freelance to someone, share it with the world, I'd love to do that. It's my dream topic. Like, I love it. Yeah, I don't know. It's just, we shall see. Maybe Sega will spring it on us one day.
Let's move on to your honourable mentions. I can probably, well, not so much probably guess, as I know what the first game on the list is going to be. But go on, enlighten us. What is the first game on your list?
It's got to be Dark Souls, then it? It's just got to be Dark Souls. It's actually the game I talk about more than Streets of Rage. And I think it got really annoying on VG for a lot of people because they started taking the mickey out of me because of it. Will you stop comparing everything to Dark Souls? And like, fair enough, yeah, I shouldn't have done that so much, but whatever. It's behind me now. But no, I love Dark Souls. It's the kind of game that, I don't know, I just put so much time into it. I obsessed over it. I think a lot of people are the same though. I read the wiki guides for like pointers, and some people say that's cheating, but I think the game gives you so little advice that I think probably everyone that's played this game has looked at the wiki at least once for some little bit of information.
Oh yeah.
I tell you what, that community, it's so good, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, I've only played like a handful of hours of both Dark Souls 1 and 2, but like, even I can tell how stupidly dedicated the community is on those games.
Yeah, totally. And you know what, like, the whole thing about in Dark Souls about leaving messages for people and seeing how other people have died to learn from it. In essence, they're all trying to complete the game together and help each other out. And that's why I think the wiki guide is so endearing to me. Like, it's people who have put in genuine time. They've actually discussed the game, the intricacies of it, with no help from the developer, and they've actually cracked it. That is so cool, like, to see people do that. To come together and stop moaning at each other for a while. Stop, like, being nasty to each other and toxic, and actually, like, help each other. I love that. That's not really the main reason why I like the game. It's just something I think is a really nice takeaway from it, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But what I really like about it though is that sense of achievement, right? So I mean, I think it's one of these things. Some people get it, some people don't. When they die, they either walk away from it annoyed, or they dust themselves off annoyed, but then they go back and try again, and they learn from each defeat. And it's completely fine. I think there's a view that fans of Dark Souls, like myself, are very kind of, you just need to play it again. You just need to get a bit better. I'm not one of those guys. It's kind of annoying that, you know, it's like if someone doesn't like something, just leave them alone, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not for everyone, I get that, but it definitely is for me. Like, I loved, like, finally overcoming a boss, that feeling that you get for about 5 minutes, like, oh yes, I can king of the world, I can do whatever I want, I'm so powerful now, I've learned, I've cracked this game, and then the next enemy kills you and you're like, oh god, back again, let's repeat the cycle 5 more times or whatever. But no, like, completing that game for me was just such a milestone in gaming. Like, it's and it reminded me again of games like Streets of Rage and stuff, because it's all about memorizing patterns, like knowing when enemies are going to strike, knowing when to jump in and throw a punch or swing your sword, or knowing when not to. You know, you have to be very disciplined about how you move and stuff and how you act. And I firmly believe if you die because you got hit by an enemy attack, you should have been blocking. Why were you standing there? And you learn from it. You know, you do very slowly and very granularly, you do learn how to overcome every problem. And I love that. It's a game that makes you work for the victory. Whereas games like COD, it's like, hey, like this, and I love COD for the record. I actually adore it so much.
Yeah.
I'm not slacking it off. Just for everyone else. I love it, but it's getting to the point now where it's a bit like, hey, loads of stuff's exploding and you haven't really done that much to earn that big, visual payoff, but hey, have it for free.
Yeah. And
I get that though, because some people just want to, after a long day of work, they just want to sit down and watch some stuff explode. That's fine. But for me, I like to work for it. I'm kind of really getting back into difficult games again. Like I said earlier, I started buying loads of NES cartridges again. And man, some of those old Nintendo games are so difficult. I tell you, I started playing the first Ninja Gaiden on NES. That is a real lesson in pain. Let me tell you, that is such a difficult. I've never finished it. I'm trying to, but oh man, it's really difficult. And even like Batman on NES, which movie tie-ins, right, haven't got the best track record. That's a really good game, but it's difficult. It's so hard. I think I can't get past level 3, and they're not big levels, and I cannot do it. I don't know. So Dark Souls, and I love the tone of it, the sort of harrowing tone. It's actually weird. It sounds strange, but it's such a bleak game. Yeah, it feels really relaxing. So it's quiet, and you kind of get into the atmosphere of it. And sometimes, farming souls, I'll just stick a playlist of music on over the top of it, and just sit there for an hour, just grinding while drinking a beer or something. A bit of downtime for me. I actually quite like that, but.
Yeah, like going back to the Ninja Gaiden thing, like if you had to compare like the old SNES version or the Xbox version, like which would be the harder of the two, would you think? They're both difficult, I think in different ways. That's a bit of a cop-out reply, but the NES Ninja Gaiden I think is difficult because it's very unpredictable. There's no AI. You can't really trick it or really predict it. It's one of these annoying NES games where if you pass an enemy, but then you run back the way you came slightly and come back, the enemy will respawn. So when you're sort of jumping between things, trying to move, all the enemies are respawning and jumping at you, and it just gets really crazy. So the mechanically it's not all that great, but I guess the Xbox one you can at least memorize attack patterns with some more reliability, I guess. That was a really good answer, but it's just the days when there wasn't really AI, it was just really scripted stuff, but it pummeled you relentlessly on the NES version. They're difficult in different ways. That's not a really good answer, but yeah. What other games would make it on your honorable mentions list? Because there's another game that me and you both like that is very crazy for. But what others?
So I'm really sad about this because I do actually have a top 5 favorite games. I actually think about this all the time, and it changes. So Final Fantasy VII. Is my second favourite game actually, after Streets of Rage 2, but Dark Souls is more of a recent entry. So Final Fantasy VII is endured for me for so long. I got it the Christmas that came out here, instantly just thought this is the best game I've ever played. It hasn't aged. Aged well. It has aged well, but there's things like the storyline starts to make less sense as you go back and view it with adult eyes. Do you know what I mean? If you've done, I've done more reading since then. Yeah, the dialogue's really naff. Translation, fair enough. I'm not being harsh on it, but translation's a bit naff. There's some bits of story that don't make much sense. There's all these rumours that loads of bits were cut and stuff, but oh man, the storyline's incredible. It's such a long game. It takes you on such a journey. You basically travel that whole world and you see all the different cultures and stuff, and it's fantastic. The combat system's brilliant. The graphics for the time, that first shot when you see Midgar and Aerith standing there, over the materia, the holy materia and stuff, fantastic. I could keep on going on, honestly. I love the soundtrack as well. I'm actually going to see Distant Worlds for the first time this year, which is I'm really excited about that. The concert with all the Final Fantasy songs. So I'm really pumped about that. Love the soundtrack in Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, I play it every few years. I play through it again, just to jog the old memory on it. But I'm playing the Vita, the PS1 Classic on the Vita right now. But I had to stop because of work, but now I can play it again without thinking about work, so that's good. What else? So Final Fantasy, Super Mario Brothers 3 is up there for me. Over Mario World, I had a discussion on Twitter with a few people about this last week actually, which is really weird. A lot of people said that World's the best, a lot of people say 3 is the best, but I think there's a lot of
agreement that they are the kind of two best of the old ones, right? Not so Galaxy's awesome, but of the old ones, those are the two that really stand out. I just love Mario Brothers 3. Again, it's a bit kind of nostalgia value. But that's the game for me. Like, it's such a lesson in momentum and pacing and level design. Every jump's like so perfectly placed that you could almost speedrun each stage if you knew the pattern. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a speedrun for Mario 3, but it just looks like everything's been made that it's very deliberately, every block has been deliberately placed so you can do that. Like, it's really weird. Love that game. Like, and it was the first one with like big world maps. It felt massive. All the different suits, like the raccoon suit and all the different powers. Like, it's just, they thought of everything with that game at the time, and I love it. Shortly after that game, I would say, is Resident Evil 4. So I adore that game as well. Like, I love it. So I'm really excited for Evil Within as well, actually.
Yeah.
Just because I love Shinji Mikami's games. Like, I follow his games quite a lot, you know, Vanquish and stuff, you know. But yeah, Resi 4, man oh man, like, it's just like, what a way to reinvent a franchise. Like, fair enough, it was the beginning of a sort of downward turn. But it wasn't really Mikami's fault. I mean, I think what he did with Resi 4 was fantastic. It was a different kind of horror though. It was more like more action based but man, see the first time when you go into that village at the start and you hear the chainsaw, bloody hell. I still remember, this is a nostalgia value. I was a uni student back then. I think I was in third year. And I probably shouldn't have been playing games. I should have been studying and spending my student loan on something else. But yeah, I got this game and just, oh man, I had the lights off and I was sitting there and I was just like, this is awesome. Like, really cool. Big boss battles, like loads of cool graphics for the time. When Leon dies, all the different ways he can die are just horrible. To the point of parody almost. And the game was massive, the controls were great, the shooting was awesome. Then Resi 5 came and Resi 6 was just terrible, but I don't want to get into that too much. But, oh man. I quite like the fact they're doing a remake of 1 again though.
Yeah.
I think it's a good way of educating people who came to it late. And let's be honest, it's a bloody good remake. Like, it really is fantastic. Did you play it on the GameCube when it came out?
I didn't, this is because honest truth, I didn't really have any non-PlayStation platforms till about 8 years ago, so I had no GameCube, no Xbox, no nothing, so I didn't really play it at the time, no. Yeah,
I was the same actually. I was, and I'll admit this, not now, not for like a very long time, but I was a bit of a Sony fanboy. When the first Xbox got announced, I was like, who the hell do Microsoft think they are? Big
enough?
Yeah! But then Halo came out and I was a bit like, this looks quite cool. Never got on with it. And it's not because of the Microsoft thing. I never really got on with it at all. Until, say Halo 3 was the first one I really sat down and thought, okay, let's give this another try.
Yeah, same.
It's alright. Quite good fun. Multiplayer, I prefer COD. I'm probably gonna get crucified for that by some people, but, you know, and then Halo 4 came out. And I thought, I need to review this. Okay, let's give this another shot. Let's actually sit down. I liked it. I actually really enjoyed Halo 4. Loved how dark the world it got and the story was cool. The fact that they got rid of a lot of the old enemies and replaced them with these cool new ones, new weapons, like everything, really sweet. Liked it. Played the multiplayer. Kind of felt the same to me.
Yeah.
Apart from they did COD style loadouts, which I thought was really odd.
Yeah.
So where's it going with that? Yeah, so Resident Evil, yeah, the remake thing, that was kind of cool. Quite cool to see that. I want to play it. I would love it if they did it for like 2 and 3 as well. But proper remakes. Because they re-released 2 and 3 on the GameCube back in the day, but they were more kind of like upscales, like not even HD, because it wasn't really a thing then, but yeah, just sort of visual touch-ups that didn't look they weren't that impressive to be honest, but yeah, I don't know, like Resident Evil 4 is awesome. I think after that, probably Mass Effect 2 or Uncharted 2.
Yeah.
They're definitely up there. Uncharted 2 is still my favourite in the series. Like I
think Uncharted 2 is probably the favourite out of most people on the series. Definitely for me, it's actually one of my favourite games of all time. Like if I put it in a top 10 list, it'd easily be in there.
Oh yeah. Same here, man. Like I mean, I think it was the game I think it was my game of the year. It was 2009 it came out. It was my game of the year. That I bought that on launch. Actually, I actually bought that one. I think. Even though I was writing at the time, I just had to have it like day one, you know. I everything about that game, like from the opening bit on the train in the snow, like that's got to be one of the best tutorials in recent times. Like really cool. It's just a roller coaster ride, you know. And a lot of people that watched me play it were like, "It's like watching a film," or even like if they're controlling it, this is like playing a film. And it's goes to show how cinematic games have become.
Yeah.
You know, so the camera angles in that game are really framed well, like a movie would be, and just, yeah, you get the best view of the crazy action all the time. And let's not forget the bit in the hotel when it collapses, like that is just badass.
Yeah.
Do you remember that bit when the hotel starts collapsing?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Like when I was talking to Neil Druckmann for Official PlayStation Magazine, he told me like the entire hotel section for Uncharted was easier. I'm kind of paraphrasing off the top of my head. Like kind of doing that section was easier to do than the entire photo booth section of The Last of Us Left Behind in terms of management, resources, time spent on it. I was kind of gobsmacked about hearing that because, like, you know, hotel is just this big section, whereas the photo booth is just like this small kind of, well, not minuscule, but like this kind of small part in such a piece of DLC.
I guess maybe where he's coming from there, like, yeah, it's kind of strange, isn't it? I guess maybe where he's coming from there is like maybe the tone had to be right, because it was quite a sentimental moment, you know. Maybe they pained themselves over like the writing and like how the characters looked and frame. So maybe that's what he means. But yeah, it's kind of strange that like, I mean, the thing about The Last of Us, I mean, the whole thing sounds like a colossal effort in terms of all the performance capture sounded really intense. You know, like yourself, man. Yeah, I interviewed Druckmann along with Ashley, I forget her second name.
Ashley Johnson.
Ashley Johnson, who is awesome, by the way. She's really cool for an interview. About the process, and they were like, she had never done anything like this before, and she had played games, you know, but it was so new to her, this process, but then she just said it was really intense, and acting in a set. I guess it must be like when actors like act in front of green screens, like there's nothing actually there. I think she felt it was harder because it's like, okay, so people are actually going to be controlling these characters and having more of an influence over the world than someone just watching a film, and everything's got to be right. And yeah, it just sounded really intense. So maybe that's what they mean. Maybe the whole process of actually acting that scene out on top of making it digitally is maybe that's what he meant. But yeah, The Last of Us is awesome. I'm just going to say that.
There's two other series that I know you really love as well, and there's one series that we mutually love greatly a lot. Obviously my favorite game ever is The Last of Us. Like, I'll probably keep saying this throughout the 10 episodes that I'll do this, but like there's another series that me and you both really love, and that's...
Yeah, I just clicked to what it was now. I was trying to think, what is it? Metal Gear Solid, obviously. Obviously, how did I actually forget that?
For 20 minutes, me and Dave sat and spoke about Metal Gear Solid as a whole. Metal Gear Solid 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, and the most batshit theories we could talk about in terms of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Not to mention the need of a boss-led MGS6 with Normandy. So I've cut that out because it has no place in this episode. But I'm going to put the rest of the conversation up on the website. In fact, chances are it's already up a couple of weeks before this airs. So if you want to listen to it, hit the links below, either on johnnycone.net, or if you're listening to it on YouTube, hit the description below. Oh, and for what it's worth, Dave's top 3 was, of course, Streets of Rage 2, Final Fantasy 7, and Dark Souls.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm obviously not a games writer anymore, but I'm going to be doing hopefully a series of retro blogs, but with a bit of it. So not just retro reviews. I'm going to do a little bit of a hobbyist kind of thing on it. So that could be quite cool. So if you want to check out that, you can get me on Twitter at Dave S Cook, all one word. I'm on there talking about games always, which is good. Yeah, and I'm also writing a novel called Seventh Circle, which is kind of like if you took Breaking Bad and Dante's Inferno and smashed them up in a blender, and shoved loads of like drugs and gangsters and Sin City type stuff in there. That's what it would be like. You can follow that on www.theseventhcircle.com, and that's seventh spelled with letters, not the number. What else? Yeah.
working on a few comics that are being made right now, so I'll probably make a lot of noise about them once they come out. They're just like one-shots, working with a few artists. One of them's a game artist as well, who works for quite a big studio, so that could be quite cool. I'll make some noise about that once it happens. And yeah, I'm making YouTube videos as well for VG247, primarily just Titanfall tip videos and guide videos, but we'll be moving on to other games in time as they come out. I think that's everything, yeah. I'm hopefully, start of this year, start next year, I'm gonna start making a game as well. I've got a sort of a plan for that as a sort of text adventure, which should be quite cool. Yeah, it'll all be on Twitter if it happens.
Thanks for listening to My Favourite Game. Next week, Holly Nielsen on The Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker. Till next week, bye bye.